episode. And today, obviously, I can bring you the good news, the great and amazing, wonderful news from the last couple of days that Prince Philip has actually now left the hospital and has returned to Windsor Castle to be reunited with the Queen. I waited a few days just to see if any more kind of information came out before talking about this, but I'm sure by now you've all heard that Philip is out. And he did release a statement today saying thank you to everyone who cared for him at both hospitals. So the King Edward the 7th Hospital and of course the St Bartholomew's as well. Obviously he had the heart surgery and he was treated for the infection. So he's spent, I think it was 28 nights in total in hospital. It's been a very trying kind of 4-week period for the Duke of Edinburgh, but he's out the other side. We did see a series of paparazzi photographs, which I'm not going to show here on the channel because they aren't official photographs, they are paparazzi pictures, so I'm not going to show them, but I'm sure by now you've all seen them. And Philip did not look in the best of health. He was sat upright. I think he walked unaided to the car. I think I heard reports that he walked unaided, but he had lost a lot of weight. His face was looking quite gaunt, probably because he's obviously not been feeling like eating, I would imagine. So I'm hoping that now that he's back at home with the Queen, that she's going to feed him up and she's going to bring him back to health. I'm sure she'll have the staff on the case preparing him his favourite meals. Hopefully his appetite will be returning because, as you know, when you've had an infection, you're in hospital, you're lying down all the time, you're not using that amount of energy. You're probably going to go off your food, and I think that's likely what happened with Philip. And you can see it. You can see it in his face. You can almost see the facial bones. He hasn't been well, but he's come out the other side. They wouldn't let him out of hospital if he wasn't well enough to be out. So I'm just happy that he's out. He's back in the HMS bubble. So yeah, I'm just really happy that and pleased for the Queen as well, that she has been reunited with Philip. Obviously, this past 12 months, they've spent probably the most time together that they ever have in their entire marriage. So yeah, it's just really amazing that he's out, and I really hope and wish him a speedy recovery. Everything that's been going on with the royal family over the past 4 weeks as well cannot have helped in terms of stress-wise. Of course, we don't know how much Philip knew about what was going on with the Harry and Meghan Oprah interview. But I'm imagining, he's a man that likes to keep informed. He's still, the head of the family. When the Queen and Philip got married, it was always that kind of deal they had between each other, which was actually explored in The Crown. I think it was the first or second season, where the Queen was obviously, in control and queen of the country, but Philip was very much given control of the family aspect of things. And Philip, I think, is still this kind of patriarch of the family. I've got a feeling that he will have known what was going on, and it can't have helped stress-wise. Dealing with an infection, heart surgery, having that added stress on top, I don't think was very good. Certainly the timing, I think, of the Harry and Meghan Oprah interview was not good for Philip's health. I mean, we didn't know what he looked like until we saw the coming out pictures, and you can tell it's been a bad time for Philip. So I'm just glad he's out, and I really hope that he doesn't get any more stress and that he can recover in peace. Yes, people are posting shamrocks, and that can only mean one thing. It is St Patrick's Day. Now, I do actually have an Irish flag, which I forgot to put out. So I should really have changed my British Union Jack for an Irish flag. So I do have one. So I'm sorry I haven't got it out. I know we have lots of Irish people that watch the channel, and also descendants of Irish people as well that might have moved and travelled around the globe. So St Patrick's Day is not just celebrated in Ireland, it's celebrated all over the world because lots of Irish people travelled and settled elsewhere. So there'll be lots of people that will have Irish heritage in different places in the world that are celebrating today. Now, I do have my aquamarine tiara on today, the Brazilian aquamarine tiara. I thought I'd wear it just because I fancy a little bit of sparkle. And there we go. So the tiara is back on. Now, I've kind of called this chat Ask Me Anything, Royal Chat, Ask Me Anything, because there's been a lot going on, and sometimes it's difficult for me to know exactly what you want to know. So I'm opening up the conversation. Ask me anything that you'd like me to comment on, that you'd like my perspective on. Let me know. So I'm going to go back up and obviously see if I can see any questions. So again, lots of people saying happy that Prince Philip is home, sending me lots of St. Patrick's Day wishes to everyone, to myself and everyone around the world. By the way, even if you're not Irish, you can still celebrate St. Patrick's Day. It's still an occasion to, you know, dress up and in green if you want to and have a good time. I think that's the main thing, St. Patrick's Day, but having a good time. A lot of people saying, yay, great news about Philip. I'm sorry, I have an amazing comment, a big comment in, I think, Spanish, but unfortunately I can't speak Spanish. I can try and make out. But I think you're talking about Philip and saying that it's good news that he's out, I do believe. Mason says, thank you, Lord. Tisha's got to check something. Laura says, love the aquamarine. Right. I'm just seeing if there's any question. I did see one about Archie, but I think it's vanished. I can't. Oh, Elias, I think that's how you pronounce your name, says, is Archie or will he be a prince? At the moment, no. Archie is not an HRH and he is not a prince. There's been a lot of talk about the George V convention. I'm trying to put it in real simple terms. When Charles is king, Archie has the right to be HRH and a prince by birth, his birthright. So that's separate from anyone else. Archie, under the George V convention, he's entitled to be HRH and prince. But the parents of a minor can choose how to have their child styled. So, as it was at the time, we believed that Harry and Meghan had chosen not to style Archie by the courtesy title of Earl of Dumbarton. So again, there's not been much talk about that title, but that was Harry and Meghan's choice. If you go back to, for example, Edward and Sophie, their children, Lady Louise and Viscount Severn, are actually entitled by birthright to be HRH and Prince and Princess now, because they are grandchildren of the monarch, not great-grandchildren. But Edward and Sophie chose for them not to be styled as such. But when they get to the age of 18, they can choose themselves whether or not they want to take up that birthright. That birthright doesn't vanish just because their parents say, while they're minors, they don't want them to be titled that way. So in Archie's case, because he's currently a great-grandchild, he doesn't have that right to be an HRH or a prince now, but he will do when Charles is king. Now, I think there was a lot of talk about perhaps when Charles is king, changing the George V convention, so issuing new letters patent as a monarch, which is his right to do so, limiting who gets the HRH and prince or princess titles to perhaps streamlining it to just the direct line. For example, the direct heir, the direct heirs, and the direct heir's heir, if that makes sense. So perhaps when Prince George has children, his children might get the HRH and the prince or princess, but then perhaps when perhaps when Prince Louis has children, his children won't, to fall in line, if you see what I mean. So I'm thinking what we're seeing in action is more of Prince Charles, this long-held view that the monarchy should be streamlined a bit more in terms of styles and titles. Now, I think where Harry and Meghan are coming from is that as the first child born of mixed heritage in the royal family, does that have more of a security risk in terms of his safety and protection, which obviously is a concern. However, Beatrice and Eugenie also had protection because they were HRH and princesses of the realm, But that was taken away about, what, I don't know, 4-5 years ago. There was a big stink where Prince Andrew kicked up a fuss that he didn't think that their protection should be taken away. Well, it was. So nowadays, gone is that convention where if you automatically have an HRH, that you get protection, close protection, police protection attached to that title. That went with Beatrice and Eugenie. So this is not a new thing. Even if Archie was given an HRH and a prince status, if it remained unchanged when he got to 18, there's still no guarantee that police protection would be attached to that. If it went the same way as Beatrice and Eugenie, then it wouldn't be anyway. So there is a lot of misconceptions about that whole issue. But it's a good question to ask, and it's a good one that needed to be answered. Miriam says, I thought Prince Philip would recover, and I'm certainly glad. I was wondering, does the UK have any American hosts or co-hosts in the US? Do you mean... I'm not quite understanding the question. I was wondering, does the UK have any American hosts or co-hosts? Do you mean in the UK, or any UK hosts in America? I mean, there's no, not really, not that I'm aware of. Amber says, could Charles return Harry and Meghan's HRH? Return it? They haven't lost it. All that's gone. Well, actually, no titles have gone. All that was is when Harry and Meghan decided to step back, that they were told that they couldn't use the HRH. So, but it doesn't mean they haven't got it. They still have it. They're still. This is part of the problem, is the fact that they still have the HRH. They still have these kind of diplomatic ties to the country of which they derive their titles and styles from. So they still have them. They just don't use them officially for sort of work purposes, I guess. But when Charles is king, Charles can issue any letters patent, any new rules that he wants regarding the styles and titles of his family, basically. Christine says, what do you think they mean when they said Harry's calls with Charles and William? Right. Okay, so let's go back to the issue. So when William was at an engagement with Catherine, he was asked by a rather upfront someone in the crowd. I think it might have been a reporter or a photographer. They said, you know, have you spoken to Harry yet? And William said, no, but I'm going to. Are you a racist family? And William said, no, my family is very much not a racist family. So William was kind of drawn to talk. I didn't think he would, but he did. And then obviously we hear nothing until Gayle King on American TV announces that conversation had happened over the weekend and that it was unproductive. Now, Gayle King obviously is a friend of Meghan. Gayle King, Oprah, Meghan, Harry, all friends. The interview took place in Gayle King's mansion grounds. Gayle King, a very wise, savvy, accomplished, American journalist, host, almost kind of a similar line to Oprah, I suppose. And also being Meghan's friend, I don't think Gayle King would have made the comments that she made without having Meghan's blessing to do so. Of course, it is a possibility that she may have just taken it off her own back and just decided to do it. But I don't think so. I think Gayle King is too smart. She hasn't got to where she's got, by being dumb. So I think Gayle King would have checked if it was okay to have spoken about a private conversation that was held between, Charles and Harry and William and Harry. We don't know if it was a double call or single call separate, but Gayle King divulged that the call had happened, which was quite unusual in itself to have a private call kind of announced that it had happened, especially when Harry and Meghan had said that the interview was the last word. And of course, the royal family officially had said that everything was going to be dealt with in private. So to have a kind of third party, a friend of Harry and Meghan, then divulging this information was quite an unusual step. One which personally, I think these conversations should be happening behind closed doors. I think it should be private. Harry and Meghan have had their say. They said quite clearly that this was going to be the last word on it. The royal family said they wanted it to be private. I worry, it's more of a concern of mine that these private conversations are being leaked, probably by Harry and Meghan themselves, in terms of this kind of rebuilding. Everything that's happened has happened, and nothing's going to change that. So where we are is we're with a broken family. We have a broken family that needs to start this process of healing, and whatever has gone on previously, that almost needs to be parked, because to go forwards, to make and mend a new relationship, you need a bit of trust. And if William and Charles have been honest and open in their conversation with Harry over the weekend, even if it wasn't productive, even if it wasn't what Harry and Meghan may have wanted to have heard, it was a start point. And normally when you're rebuilding a relationship, there's always a start point. And sometimes that start point does not always marry up. You don't necessarily always agree on something straight away. It's almost like you need to allow yourself that process of disagreeing, but yet having that conversation, being able still to have that conversation. And I think it's a very important process that needs to happen. And I feel that it's best happening behind closed doors and not being played out in the eyes of the world. So I was a little bit dismayed to find that conversation, any sort of details about it, had been leaked, because I feel like it's in that the relationship building is in that very early stage of being repaired. And think about it from Charles and William's point of view. How on earth are they going to be able to trust being open and honest with their feelings if they think that whatever they say is going to be relayed to Gayle King to be put out on national TV? That is no way to rebuild a relationship. So for Harry and Meghan, it looks like their relationship with Harry's family, the royal family, is at rock bottom, apart from perhaps Princess Eugenie and maybe the Yorks, actually. Perhaps Harry and Meghan are actually quite close with the kind of York factor of the family. But also, from Meghan's side, she's also fallen out with half of her family. There is a common denominator in all of this. Who are the people that are falling out with both sides of the family? I'm just saying. So perhaps there does need to be healing. But I think there needs to be some peace and privacy whilst that healing is going on, or else all of the trust is going to be gone. So I think we're just at that point of where healing is not going to happen. I don't think by talking about the meeting or the chat not being productive, that's not going to make it any more productive. It's going to make people more cut off. It's going to make people more closed off. It's not going to make people open their hearts and grow. And like I say, sometimes at the start of a healing process, you have disagreements and you almost have to state your case. And then when you start to gradually unpick things, you start to make compromises. And I think that's where we need to get to, the stage of compromise and understanding how each other feel, understanding how you've made each other feel. Harry understanding how William feels, William understanding how Harry feels, Charles understanding how both of them feel. It's a big undertaking. I wish that the COVID pandemic was not going on. Harry and William need to be in a room together. They need to see the whites of each other's eyes. They need to be able to look into their eyes. They need to reconnect. And I think they need to be in a room. I almost want to get their heads and just rub their heads together and say, come on. You've been through such a shared experience in the past, the horrors of losing your mother. And then you've ended up here in this place, regardless of, and to be honest, I'm not interested in who is to blame. I just want resolution. I think most people now just want to move on. And there are some people out there are some people on social media, there are some journalists who absolutely love all of this. They love the drama. They love the fact that families have fallen out. Some people thrive on people falling out in families. I'm not one of those people. I do not take any happiness, any joy in seeing Meghan falling out with her father's side of the family. I don't see any joy or any pleasure in Harry and Meghan falling out with the royal family. I take absolutely no pleasure in this whatsoever. Royal watching is often about the good, the bad, and the ugly. There are the good times, there are the bad times, and there are the downright ugly times. And right now, make no mistake about it, we are going through an ugly time. It's happening, so we have to talk about it. But it's not right. I take no joy, no pleasure in seeing families fall out. I'm not one of those people that enjoys this. And there are people out there willing and egging Harry and Meghan to fall out even more with their family. That's not me. You are not going to get that with me. I'm all about conflict resolution. Harry and William need to be in a room together to sort all of this out. When COVID's over, I really hope that they do. I hope that the Diana statue goes ahead. Originally, I thought maybe it might be delayed, but because of the way COVID vaccinations and the country unlocking is going in the UK, there's still a chance that the Diana statue might go ahead as planned. I'm hoping that Harry can come over. I'm hoping William and Harry can have face-to-face discussions. I think that's what is needed. And I don't think, having Gayle King as a mouthpiece, or anyone else for that matter, from this point onwards, is going to be of any use whatsoever in conflict resolution. And it certainly isn't helping Prince Philip as well, who's trying to recover. There was something else I was going to say in a big hurry. Oh yes! Weaponizing Diana. That's another thing that I have not enjoyed. It started a little while ago, where the brothers, William and Harry, both of them, are now weaponizing the memory of their mother, Diana. And quite frankly, I want to get their faces and I want to slap them around the face. This is your dead mother, and it is not okay to start weaponizing your dead mother against your brother. Both ways. Over Mother's Day, there was an example before Mother's Day, but on Mother's Day, we saw for the first time William and Catherine releasing Diana tributes from George, Charles and Louis. Don't get me wrong, they were beautiful, they were lovely tributes, it was nice to see them, but did we need to see them? No, we did not need to see them. They were private. In the past, we have had kind of, Mother's Day tributes jointly from Harry and William, maybe sharing a photo, just kind of maybe wishing Happy Mother's Day to their mother. But we haven't had anything kind of that personal before. Then, hours later, not to be outdone, Prince Harry comes out with the announcement that he's arranged to have flowers laid on his dead mother's grave. Again, lovely. It's absolutely wonderful and amazing that Prince Harry is remembering his mother in that way. But we did not need to know that. That is personal. That is private. I didn't need to know that. It's nice that we know it, I suppose, but we didn't need to know it. And I think the only reason why Harry then said about the flowers is because William posted, authorised the posting of the Diana tributes from his children. So they are weaponising Diana to get one up over the other. I'm my mother's son. No, I'm my mother's son. No, I love her the best. No, I love her the best. And I'm doing this on Mother's Day. And no, I'm doing this on Mother's Day. Stop. Just absolutely stop. We don't need to know that. You don't need to outdo each other. It's not on. Seriously, would Diana want that? No, she would not. I never knew the woman, but I'm pretty sure that Diana would not want wouldn't want her memory to be weaponized against each other. That is just not on whatsoever. We did not need to know that. So yes. Lauren says, breathe. I know, there's been a lot going on, and I've tried to stay as, I was angry yesterday. I was. But no, I have calmed down a bit now. I just think we are in the ugly. As I said, royal watching is about the good, the bad, and the ugly. We are in the plain, downright, dirty, ugly. Oh my goodness, it is a stanky leg, seriously. And like the stanky leg, it needs to be shook off, seriously. We want healing, and Diana's memory should not be tarnished in that way. Do not, William, Harry, if you're watching this video, if any of your people are watching this video, we are going into tit-for-tat territory. You are weaponizing your dead mother. Stop it immediately. I don't want to see any more of it, or else I will come and I will get both of your heads and I will bang them together. You've been warned. Don't do it, my loves. Don't do it. Right, I'm going to go up and read some comments. Do you have any more questions? Because I've just had a rant. Right. Let me see. Richard said, how is it that Harry is no longer living in the UK, can be still remain a councillor of state? He can, unless that is removed. So, potentially it could be removed. I mean, potentially, if Harry and Meghan, do something or do things or indicate a direction that could be diplomatically sensitive to the UK, the government could even step in and actually require the Queen to start the process of removing these titles. I think there would have to be an Act of Parliament to actually remove the HRHs. So, no, it wouldn't. Yes, no, it wouldn't. I will look into it a little bit more, but there has been some debate over whether it would need an Act of Parliament or not. But anyway, the government could be the ones that instigate it rather than the Queen. I actually don't think the Queen wants to remove the HRH or even the ducal titles, but I think the ones that are most at risk are the HRHs, depending on what Harry and Meghan do. Let's just suppose that Meghan wanted to go into frontline US politics. I say Meghan because Harry isn't an American citizen yet. We don't know if he's started the process. But Meghan probably more likely to go into politics than anyone. So if she did, that would be untenable to have with an HRH because it really is a diplomatic problem. So perhaps the government at that point could instigate the removal of those titles. The one thing, however, that I do think needs protecting at all costs is Harry's place in the line of succession. I am not for removing Harry's place in the line of succession. As you know, I am all about protecting the monarchy as well, and I think that to remove Harry's place in the line of succession would be to diminish what monarchy is. Monarchy is that you can't pick and choose who becomes your monarch. Sometimes you have good kings or queens, and sometimes you have bad ones. You have to kind of deal with what you get. It's like if you go, blind into a box of chocolates and you pull one out and you don't like it, well, tough. You've got to carry on. So I do think that Harry's place in the line of succession should remain. But if it became diplomatically impossible for them to retain the HRH and possibly the ducal titles, then those are the ones that I think would be most likely to be at risk. Lauren says they would definitely have more freedom without the HRHs. It could benefit them, to be quite honest. Dana says, what is the purpose of the HRH if no security? It's to show that you are royal, basically. It shows that you are a key senior member of the royal family. It is to give you it's like an honour. It's like an honour. It's like, you are like the top of society. And no, nowadays the protection is not necessarily attached to the HRH. I actually learned the other day that Princess Anne and Edward and Sophie no longer have round-the-clock royal protection. They only actually have their royal protection officers when they are actually at an engagement. So even now, the royal protection is kind of becoming a lot more tailored to engagements. I think they will have, some officers based at their private homes, but in terms of close protection, the person that has to be, close by them at all times, I believe that is mostly now just for the senior royals: Charles, William, Catherine, Camilla. So there have been cutbacks for other royals as well, which I didn't find out about until a couple of weeks ago, actually. Tanny's mum says Harry's place needs to be secured. I agree. If anything happens to Charles, he could go before the Queen. I agree. I think Prince Harry's place in the line of succession should absolutely remain. Elise says, so happy to see you wearing the tiaras again. Let's have a look. Person 1 says, you Brits blame Meghan because she's the outsider. Your clannishness and xenophobia isn't subtle. Now, of course, there have been many accusations labelled, particularly, I don't actually think at the British people. I think in the British media. I think there has been lots of talk about double standards and why the press talk in the way that they do towards Meghan as opposed to, for example, Catherine and everything else. I agree. I think when it comes to the press, I think that there has been some xenophobia, most definitely. I think somebody coming into the country that is different, that may approach things in different ways, has a different viewpoint, perhaps a different work ethic, is going to rattle a few cages. I don't think that justifies the level of treatment that Meghan got. But I agree, there is amongst the press, in particular maybe some royal reporters, some xenophobia there, and that is not acceptable. But I don't think that is felt by the British people as such. To be honest, I think the British people supported Harry and Meghan pretty much all the way up to the point where they actually stepped back. I think for the British people who actually did give Harry and Meghan their support, the British people, I think, felt it was a bit of a kick in the teeth for Harry and Meghan to leave. But that's because I think the British people had given Harry and Meghan their support. The British people can't control what the press write about the royal family, as much as, really, the royal family can't control what the press say. The British people wouldn't support the monarchy telling the press what to say about them. That wouldn't be tenable, seeing as it's taxpayers paying for the monarchy. They have to be accountable to a free press. That is one of those kind of nuances, I think, that kind of subtle embryotic relationship between monarchy, press and the public that Meghan was kind of trying to explain in the interview. So the press cannot be, the royal family can't be seen to be controlling the press. If there is stories that are categorically wrong and they want to back that up with evidence, they can do that. But sometimes to share evidence can kind of open up more of a discussion on something that you perhaps didn't want to talk about anyway. So there is all that to consider as well. Let's have a look. Miriam says it's not unreasonable to demand that the press don't lie. It's not, but you would have to prove that what they were saying was a lie, if you see what I mean. It's the same with claims of the press being racist against Meghan. There are clear examples of double standards. There are obviously negative stories, but to prove that those stories were written with a racial intent behind them is very difficult. I can give you one example where I think the royal family could have spoken out. When Danny Baker compared Archie to a chimp, that was unacceptable. That was downright obviously racist. I can't think of a more clear example of an overt display of racism. It was absolutely appalling. And the only reason why I've mentioned it here is to give an example of racism, which needs calling out. At the time, I thought that perhaps the royal family could have taken, and it's a horrible way to describe it as an opportunity, but they could have taken that overt display of racism as an opportunity to say something about racism that was clearly racist. And I think that was a missed opportunity. Do we have a troll in the room? So someone was saying about a troll. Let me just delete a troll. Hang on, wait a second. There we go. Right, it is just me in the room today, so I'm trying to do everything. So I think the royal family did miss an opportunity. They could have actually spoken out, and also I think a missed opportunity was talking about all the racist comments that were coming on the social medias. Yes, they put in a social media policy, but they didn't necessarily go through all the comments and delete them. I don't think they were prepared for that. And I think perhaps they should have employed more people to go through the social medias, and as soon as these comments appeared, delete them. Hopefully, I'm hoping that they've learned a bit from that. So they could have taken more of a stance on social media, but let's not forget, comments on social media come in from all over the world. So it wasn't necessarily, British people, Australians, Americans, Canadians, whatever. It was all over the world, all these social media comments. So I think there were some missed opportunities where they could have actually spoken. I've just reached 10,000 steps on my Fitbit. I think there were missed opportunities, but it's very difficult to overtly say that the press is that the reason why they're doing these negative stories is because of racism. Because the press would turn around and say, well, prove that our motive is racist. And from the monarchies, it's very hard to do that. Yes, they can, you can put together as many double standard side-by-side headline photographs as you like. It proves that the press was negative towards Meghan. It proves there was a double standard, but it doesn't prove why. People obviously have their own ideas as to why, but it doesn't prove it. And they would have to have proof to do that. They could have gone after the press by calling out Danny Baker. They could have been a lot more stronger with their deletion and talking about the comments online. But other than that, I don't see what the royal family could have done. Will Camilla be a queen? Yes. As far as British law is concerned, the wife of a king is a queen consort. That law has not been changed. It's not even been instigated to be changed. Just checking out my window. So at the moment, yes, Camilla is on track to be a queen consort. There was talk about her being known as princess consort. That was actually removed from the official royal family website, and it was only classed as an intention for her to be princess consort. And of course, as we know, intentions are just intentions. The law is the law, and at the moment, the wife of a king is a queen. Therefore, Camilla will be the queen consort. Personal says, thanks for answering. People cannot control the press but seem to believe it. Unfortunately, that is how the press works. I would give the British people more credit than simply just believing everything they see in the papers. The British people are used to the British press doing what we call paper talk. And a lot of people do question what they read in the papers. People don't literally just take what the papers say at face value. People do question it. So I would say, just because it's being written in the papers, it doesn't mean the people that are reading it are not questioning it. So we, as a British public, we are used to that, which might seem a little bit weird for people not living in the UK, but we see this kind of stuff on a daily basis. It's almost like we're kind of desensitized to it, I suppose, and we do not always believe what we see in the headlines of the tabloids, because we know that they are just tabloids. We're more likely, I suppose, to believe something that we see maybe on the BBC or on the official 10 o'clock news or something like that. But in terms of tabloid newspapers, it's more like light entertainment, and it is terrible that people's lives are being used as light entertainment, but it's not taken as seriously as perhaps some people might think. Nancy says, then why can't Philip be a king consort? Because a king is technically ranked higher than a queen. So you couldn't have a queen regnant marrying a king and then being outranked by her husband that's marrying into the family. Which is why Prince Albert, who married Queen Victoria, was made prince consort. The question should have been, why wasn't Philip given the same title as Prince Albert? And actually, I believe he should have been. It was always kind of long held that Prince Philip didn't want to be known as Prince Consort. But actually, I think Prince Philip should have been given that title. I think perhaps around the time of the Queen's Silver Jubilee, when she'd been on the throne for 25 years, Philip at that point would have proved himself. The issue of the surname would have been resolved, that the House of Windsor would carry on. And I think at that point he should have been elevated to the role of Prince Consort. It's still not too late. If anyone's watching from the palace, it is still not too late to make Philip the Prince Consort. Please do it. I would. But apparently Prince Philip's happy being the Duke of Edinburgh. So there we go. Person 1 says, no, you folks rightly love your monarchy, but the hatred they allowed toward Meghan is indefensible. Everyone is going to have their big opinions on this, and this is what we are going to see played out. Personally, again now, going back to what I said earlier, I would like to see the relationship rebuilt in private. I don't think they are going to rebuild this relationship if it is played out in front of the camera, in front of the TV, media, cameras, word for word. Dana says, you have not addressed why there were discussions. I did. I said that it was because of Prince Charles's long-held view that there should be a stripped-back monarchy. And I think they are starting that with Harry's children. Also, like I said, they started it with Princess Beatrice and Eugenie because they took away the protection from the HRH, of which Princess Beatrice and Eugenie hold. So we saw that actually starting with Beatrice and Eugenie about 5 years ago. So I have spoken about that. Bev says, how would Philip be styled differently if he was Prince Consort? He would just be His Royal Highness, the Prince Consort of the United Kingdom. And that's the only difference it would be. But Prince Philip is still a prince of the United Kingdom. Person 1 says, you should see colour and respect and enjoy the differences. I agree. I think having Meghan in the royal family was an immense opportunity. The Commonwealth, people around the world, especially the Commonwealth, absolutely loved Meghan. I still think the British people loved having Meghan coming into the family. She was a breath of fresh air. She was someone different. We hadn't had anybody like Meghan before. She was self-made. She was eloquent. She was educated. She brought the most money as an independent bride into the royal family at that point. She was, I've said before, she was an oven-ready royal. She was good to go. And but I think, like Meghan said, she said that she wasn't quite prepared, that she kind of underestimated this kind of celebrity versus royal, and they are most certainly are not the same, which is what I've been saying for years and years and years. Celebrities are not royals. Do you believe me now? Meghan said it. Celebrities are not royals. I agree. I think Meghan, brought a whole new horizon to the royal family, and it is incredibly sad that things didn't work out. And I wish it could have been very, very different. I really do. UT says, why didn't Archie get the title? Well, he didn't get it at the moment because he's not entitled to it by the George V Convention, which I said earlier. So if you missed me talking about that, wind back. But as soon as Charles is king, Archie is entitled to be HRH and Prince, unless Charles changes it, which I think he might be considering to try and streamline the royal family. Tara says, why are Beatrice and Eugenie princesses and HRH and not Edward's children? They are. Edward's children are entitled to be HRH and prince and princesses. Edward and Sophie chose not to style them as such. So in the same way that Harry and Meghan chose not to style Archie with Harry's courtesy title, Earl of Dumbarton, Edward and Sophie chose not to style their children HRH and Prince and Princess, but when they get to age 18, they can choose to take up their birthright, unless Prince Charles decides to slimline. And he could issue letters patent to stop them from getting the HRHs as well. Or he could do it from him down, if you know what I mean, from his descendants, his direct descendants down. So we could see Edward and Sophie's children kind of left that birthright but not take it up, and we could see Charles issue letters patent saying that his direct descendants can't, that it's more streamlined, or we could see him changing it for them as well. We don't know. Right. I think I've been on for 45 minutes. So I think I'm probably, unless there's any real, I don't think I've missed anything. So I'm going to go now. I will be back as soon as we have any more news on anything. I've spoken about a lot in today's video, so I'm really hoping that, you know, people can, if you've watched part way through, please go back and watch the full video. So I'm going to leave it here for now. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you have enjoyed it and found it useful, then please give it a big old thumbs up. Don't forget to share it on social media, and also of course hit the bell so that you know whenever I upload a new video. Also, please do remember to subscribe to the channel. So from me in Shropshire, mwah, to you all, stay safe and goodbye.